Good morning. I'm sincerely sorry and very disappointed that I'm unable to join you this week in Las Vegas. I wanted to do this gig for many years, but I was always teaching at another summer workshop. So I finally get the chance, and two overly cautious doctors felt this was a trip that I should not make. I explained it was a serious workshop for high school journalism teachers, and what could possibly happen? In unison, they said no. Something about my heart only working at 20% made them nervous, and the fact that Monday I was having a pacemaker and a defibrillator planted in my chest just added to their concern. I did explain that I knew a few things about pacemakers, winning a few over the years, but that joke went right over their heads. Another reason I could not make the trip is my wife had put off knee replacement surgery for 2 weeks because of my heart issues. We had a very small window, so last Wednesday she had the operation, and I would have had to leave when she was in the beginning stages of rehab. Pretty sure that would have cost me later in diamonds, Disney cruises, and Lord knows what else. I also want to thank Kelly for understanding. He suggested the video speech. With all that has been going on, I did not have much time to write and practice. So excuse the lack of eye contact. I do not have a teleprompter at home. I actually finished the speech at 3 a.m. Thank goodness I have a 3-hour time difference to practice. Kelly is a great guy, and JA is very lucky to have him at the helm. And he has slipped into Linda's huge shoes without a hitch. With all that being said, I would like to thank the GAA Awards Committee for selecting me as a Linda Puntney Teacher Inspiration Award recipient. Receiving this award and being retired, I feel even more honored that my former students and several colleagues sent some very nice recommendations, and here I am, well, kinda. Besides my students, I've been inspired by so many colleagues, and of course, one of those inspirations is Linda Putney. At every convention, she just reminded me of the Roadrunner. She was always on the go and seemed to be in 10 different places at one time. But more importantly, I handed over one of my favorite students who came to K-State to be molded into a professional journalist, and he did a good job. Thanks, Linda, for setting the bar so high and inspiring students like Nabil. Inspiration is a hard thing to measure in the classroom. It doesn't hit our students until they actually step foot in their own classroom, and then they get it. That's what happened to me. I ended up in education because of my high school newspaper advisor and wrestling coach. Both of these amazing people inspired me every day through their work ethic, positive attitude, and they actually treated us with respect and as an adult. As a result of their leadership and inspiration, I was a newspaper advisor for my entire 35-year career and a varsity wrestling coach for 25 years. I kept in contact with both of them, and my wrestling coach was actually in my wedding. It was important to me that they knew that I was a successful teacher and coach, in part because of them. I love hearing from former students. I just recently heard from one of my editors from about 23 years ago. By the end of her time on staff, I did not think she liked me so much until I got this email. She wrote, "Teacher Appreciation Week just ended, and it made me think about the teachers who made an impact on my life. You gave us so many opportunities and so much of yourself. As a kid, of course, I never thought about it. I just rolled with it. As a teacher and adult, the magnitude of what you did and the memories I have of high school that involve you become crystal clear. You are one in a million. I hope the rest of your career was rewarding for you and that you weren't touched by all the nonsense that's invading education now. You must have survived since you're now working at the happiest damn place on earth. Thanks for everything you did for me, Jana." This from a girl I thought ended high school not so pleased with me. I can't tell you what that 15-line note meant to me. When you win an award like this, many people think you have all the answers. You out there know me, know that I pretend with Emmy award-winning performances to convince people that I do know what I am doing. And most of the time, I do. When I don't, I fess up and say I'm not sure, but I will find out, which I always do. My former students that said I helped them along the way always mention the following 7 things over and over. Number 1, they had fun. Even though it was hard at times, I enjoyed the fast pace of today's youth. the late night sessions of production week when we finished final layouts and put the paper to bed. Making cappuccino runs to Speedway, celebrating holidays, running through cemeteries, visiting haunted houses in the middle of the night were all highlights. Number 2, they got so many lifelong memories. We spent a lot of time together at school, workshops, and conventions. Definitely one thing we all look forward to were our annual trips to some of the most beautiful cities in America. Breathtaking moments of standing on the rim of the Grand Canyon at sunrise, going to Disneyland, going to Venice Beach on 4/20 and at 4:20 p.m. in the afternoon, big mistake, and doing time at the Rock and Alcatraz in San Francisco were unforgettable. We also went to President Obama's first inauguration in Washington, D.C. And of course, going to New York City every March, seeing a Broadway show almost nightly, getting stars' autographs, standing in Times Square doing a 360 spin with students that may never get out of Ohio again, or having a once-in-a-lifetime dinner atop the World Trade Center at dusk are just a few awesome memories that kids mentioned. Number 3, I was honest with them. If something sucked, I told them it did and made them figure out how to fix it. Rarely did I sugarcoat things. I encouraged them to think outside of the box, but sometimes those things just did not work out. But at least they tried. When it did work, we would sit down. When it didn't work, we would sit down and figure out how to fix it. When it came to stories, let the person tell their own story, not you, the writer. Every story had to have multiple sources, including either a parent or a teacher or coach and several students. Number 3, they trusted me. This meant the world to me. Some kids had rough home lives. I was told many secrets about people, parents, and unless it wasn't harmful to someone, I never shared it with anyone. Sometimes they just needed to share things, and my shoulder was always there if they needed it. Number 5, I was a perfectionist. They thought that was a curse, but I loved hearing that, and the honest truth, they became one too. That is how we did so well in competitions and won so many state and national awards. They loved coming home with a Best of Show trophy or a write-off medal, and I always made a big deal of their successes in the paper, TV, announcements, and board meetings. Number 6, they knew I loved my job and that hard work pays off. Okay, some days the paperwork, red tape, administrators, parents, fellow teachers, and even some students made it not so fun. But I love my kids and how each month through the drama of high school, they turn into these workaholic and responsible journalists that published a decent paper every month and in turn made a difference at Findlay High School. One thing I loved about teaching media classes, they were always changing and fast-paced. Rarely were 2 days the same. With that being said, journalism teachers need to keep up with change. Our curriculum must provide the skills and principles so our students are well aware of what is happening now and in both media and technology. Whatever the medium, print, radio, television, or internet, if news organizations are to be trusted, they must prove themselves scrupulous in their insistence upon accuracy and their dedication to fairness. Our students need taught how to be responsible, professional, and fair. Student journalists must be taught how to balance their rights with responsibility. Readers trust them to be honest, fair, and accurate, especially with controversial school issues. They truly may be the only voice students in our schools have left. Our student body wanted our student journalists to ruffle some feathers, fight for their rights, and find out the truth, even if our administration didn't like that. But with that goes responsibility to look at both sides, weigh the issues, then write responsibly what they have found, and not just be fault-finding whiners. They also saw me be there with them all hours of the day and night, and knew sometimes I sacrificed family time to help them succeed. Number 7, I made a difference in their lives. English novelist Charles Kingsley once said, "Never, if possible, lie down at night without being able to say, I have made one human being at least a little wiser, a little happier, or a little better this day." High school publication offices, studios, and newsrooms are often safe havens for kids who may not feel the love at home or in the hallways, who get dragged down by the high-pressure testing of our state legislators that have turned our schools into. All states have standardized tests. Some can stop our students from walking at graduation and receiving their diplomas. We reward kids for a sameness or oneness in thought. We want everyone to bubble in the right answer so our schools receive good ratings. But my goal always went beyond good ratings. We all encourage our students' individualism. We wanted to nurture good, responsible journalists. We are creating many of our country's future leaders, ones that can problem solve, multitask, communicate, and think critically. Ones that will make their own difference in people's lives time and time again. We preach individual convergence, stressing the importance of being a well-rounded person. That lesson is reinforced in our journalism classes. We converge our media, so we teach kids how to produce stories for print, broadcast, and now the web. We always encourage our students to brainstorm different paths of thinking in editorials, columns, and coverage. Because we make a difference every day, so do our kids. And even better, they want to make an impact. It becomes contagious and spreads. They tell stories about others. Who knew a story we did on a homeless boy in St. Louis, Missouri at a national convention would be identical to one of our new students sitting in a basic English class, or a student's story of struggling with weight during wrestling season is the same as a girl in a communications class, and hers is an everyday battle. Or a news story on Relay for Life is really the same story about a boy's mom who had been in and out of chemo and just died 4 weeks ago. My students ask all the time, have I done enough? Will my story make a difference in someone's life? Throughout my career, I have had some amazing kids that have left a lasting impression on me as well. Since being named inspirational teacher, I realize more and more I have done the same. Some years it is hard to see if you left any type of impact on students. I have been invited to several class reunions, received numerous congratulatory phone calls, notes, messages, and visits. But I think they just wanted free Disney tickets. It has been overwhelming, surprising, and very endearing. One student I heard from was a photographer who was one of the most timid kids I ever met. He was one of my wrestlers, and I needed him to develop more aggressive traits. When I put a camera in his hand, at first, he did not want to step out and be seen. But when I brought him to New York City in 1984 to the Olympic ticker tape parade, that all changed. I told him to go on his own, find great moments to shoot. Once he left us, we did not see him for a couple hours. Then in the middle of the Olympic parade, walking down Broadway beside gymnast Mary Lou Retton, there he was, waving as if he had just won a gold medal. On the plane ride home, he would not shut up. He told story after story about his day and about a scaffolding that collapsed on top of the crowd. He climbed in an ambulance and took pictures of injured parade watchers until he was thrown out and threatened to be arrested. I think I had created a monster. About 12 years ago, one of my editors called telling me we needed to talk, and fast. I considered a road trip to Kansas, but with the holidays near, he said it could wait until he got home. When he came to the house and we finally talked, he was wringing his hands and sweat was forming on his brow. He finally said, I'm changing my major. This guy wanted to be my first real journalist, a newspaper reporter for a big paper, and make me proud. Of course, I acted disappointed and had to play along. The next words out of my mouth are what made me know I made a difference in his life. He looked up at me with tears in his eyes and told me, I wanted to be a journalism teacher, and I want to do for people what you have done for me. Rarely I am speechless, but this statement filled my heart with so much warmth, and the fact I was choked up, I couldn't respond. It was at that awkward moment of silence he realized that the career change was really okay. The only thing I could say after thank you was, you'll be a great teacher. And folks, here are the words of wisdom I gave him next. But you know you're going to be poor. Now, wasn't that inspirational? His comment was, but you're not poor. And I said, I'm married to a principal. He was so right, though. I am not poor. The thousands of kids I have come in contact with and friendships made, I would never find in any other occupation. This doesn't always happen for all teachers. Those that race the kids to the parking lot at the end of the school day and never got to spend extra time outside of a class period are really missing out on the riches of our profession. I also found how a teacher's openness and compassion would make a difference outside the classroom too, even in a place that is 900 miles away from Ohio. Many of you may not know that I am a New York City junkie. I love the city and have been there close to 125 times. On September 11, 2001, at about 9:55, my wife called and told me to turn on my television, classroom television. I was devastated by what I saw as I watched with tears streaming down my face, and actually watching the events all week were difficult. Then, on Friday, during an interview on Good Morning America, watching Howard Lutnick tell of the loss of his entire company, 658 of his staff, including his brother, on the 105th through 106th floors of the North Tower of the World Trade Center, it came to me. I called my wife and told her that on Saturday I was driving to New York. We played the No You're Not, Yes I Am game, but to make a long story short, on September 15th at 6 a.m., I left. I had to go. I had to do something to try and help, really just to see it for myself. Many thought it was the journalist wannabe in me, but it wasn't that. Someone had changed the world as we knew it, forever, in the city I love, and I had to try to make a difference. Driving across the George Washington Bridge, it all became real. Looking down the Hudson River, the smoke still rising, I realized this was true, not a dream. Once there, I headed downtown to help to do something, anything. The sadness and sense of loss was numbing, yet by the end of my second day, inspiring. New Yorkers are a resilient people, and these days seem more kind and helpful. The first area I went had memorials for lost loved ones, on fences, windowsills, even phone booths, and a number of people walked around with pictures in hand, asking if we had seen them, missing children, parents, grandparents. As I sat on the curb, face in hands crying, an older lady came up to me and asked if I was okay, and whom I had lost in the towers. Embarrassingly, I said no one. It was just a sense of loss all around me. It was more than I could handle. She touched my shoulder, sat down beside me, and said, "Look at these pictures of my granddaughter." She was on the 100th floor of the North Tower. I know she is gone, but I need to keep hope and looking for her. We chatted about 15 minutes, and in that short time, we actually helped each other. I helped her by just listening and let her talk about her granddaughter. I found such strength in this woman, she touched me deeply. I cry a lot more these days at really dumb moments, like when people are voted off reality shows and chick flicks. It is kind of embarrassing, but that woman had a lasting effect on me, just like us with our students. I am blessed. We have made a difference in their lives. My students have given back to me tenfold and certainly made me a better teacher, advisor, father, person, and even in retirement, a better Disney employee. Joyce Gulliver once wrote, "The meaning in life is finding your gift. The purpose of life is giving it away." Thanks to all of you, and sorry I could not be there.